Welcome to Concrete Block, your premier source for in-depth analysis and discussion on the latest news and trends. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're diving into a fascinating story that's been making waves in the scientific community. The Trump administration's policies have been causing a stir among researchers in the United States, leading some to consider leaving the country in search of more favorable environments. According to recent reports, the European Union has launched an initiative called Choose Europe, aimed at attracting top talent from the US and other countries. The program comes with a €500 million funding pledge, which, while significant, is still dwarfed by the scale of cuts the Trump administration is seeking to make to US science funding. We've seen individual universities and organizations in the EU announce separate support packages to lure US researchers. For instance, Aix-Marseille University in France has announced a €15 million program, while the Free University of Brussels has funded 12 postdoctoral positions. The Netherlands, Spain, and Norway have also made similar announcements, indicating a coordinated effort to capitalize on the current situation in the US. It's essential to note that this brain drain could have significant implications for the global scientific community. On one hand, it presents an opportunity for European countries to bolster their research capabilities and attract top talent. On the other hand, it raises concerns about the potential loss of expertise and innovation in the US. As we explore this story further, we'll be examining the complexities of this issue and hearing from experts on both sides of the Atlantic. We'll delve into the potential consequences of this brain drain, the motivations behind the EU's Choose Europe initiative, and what this might mean for the future of scientific research globally. We'll also be discussing the broader implications of the Trump administration's policies on science funding and the potential long-term effects on the U.S. research community. It's a complex and multifaceted issue, and we'll strive to provide a balanced and nuanced analysis. That's all for now. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into the latest developments in the ongoing saga between California and the Trump administration. Today, we're focusing on the contentious issue of National Guard deployment in Los Angeles. As you may know, President Trump recently ordered the deployment of 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to help quell unrest in LA, sparked by immigration raids. However, California Governor Gavin Newsom and other local officials have pushed back against this move, arguing that it's an unnecessary provocation and a violation of state authority. A federal judge recently ruled in favor of California, stating that Trump's deployment of the troops was indeed illegal and that control of the National Guard should be returned to the governor. However, the Trump administration quickly appealed the decision, and an appeals court has since stayed the order, allowing the National Guard troops to remain in Los Angeles for the time being. Now, let's take a closer look at the arguments on both sides. The Trump administration claims that the deployment is necessary to restore order and protect immigration and customs enforcement agents as they carry out their duties. On the other hand, Governor Newsom and other California officials argue that the protests in LA, although intense, do not rise to the level of a rebellion or insurrection, and that the National Guard's presence is therefore unwarranted. It's worth noting that this is not the first time a president has deployed the National Guard without a governor's consent. However, it is a rare occurrence, and one that highlights the complex balance of power between federal and state authorities. As we continue to follow this story, it's essential to consider the potential implications for both California and the nation as a whole. Will the courts ultimately side with the Trump administration or with Governor Newsom? How will this decision impact the relationship between federal and state governments, particularly when it comes to issues like immigration and national security? We'll be keeping a close eye on this developing story and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that the debate over National Guard deployment in Los Angeles has sparked a much broader conversation about the role of government and the limits of executive power. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. I'm your host, Walter. As we wrap up today's show, we're going to take a closer look at a devastating story that's been unfolding in India. A Boeing 787 Dreamliner operated by Air India crashed shortly after taking off from Ahmedabad's Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, killing nearly everyone on board. The plane, which was headed to London's Gatwick Airport, had 236 people on board, including 169 Indian nationals, 53 Britons, 7 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian. The sole survivor of the crash, British national Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, is still recovering in hospital with burn injuries. According to eyewitnesses and investigators, the plane crashed into a residential area called Meghani Nagar, causing widespread destruction and killing at least 8 people on the ground. The impact was severe, with wreckage spread over 200 meters. As the investigation into the cause of the crash continues, families of the victims are still waiting for news about their loved ones. Many are relying on DNA matching to identify the remains, a process that can be time-consuming and emotionally challenging. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the crash site on Friday, describing it as a tragic incident and offering his condolences to the families of the victims. Air India CEO Campbell Wilson also visited the site, calling it a deeply moving experience. As we report on this story, our thoughts are with the families and loved ones of those who lost their lives in this tragic accident. We will continue to follow developments and provide updates as more information becomes available. It's worth noting that the Air India plane was 11 years old and had completed over 700 flights in the past year. The Boeing Dreamliner 787-8 is a widely used aircraft, known for its safety features and reliability. However, as with any complex machine, accidents can still happen, and it's up to investigators to determine the cause of this tragic event. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.